Psychiatric nurses deal with situations most of us can't imagine. They're trained to handle violence, emotional crises, and behaviors that exist far outside the boundaries of typical human experience. But there are some patients, some situations, that no amount of training can prepare you for. Moments when the line between illness and something else becomes impossible to define. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 true stories from psychiatric nurses who encountered patients that challenged everything they thought they understood about the human mind. These aren't horror movie fantasies. These are documented cases from real psychiatric facilities. Patient files that still exist, incidents that were investigated, nurses who walked away from careers they'd spent years building. Before we begin, I want to be clear. These stories are not meant to stigmatize mental illness. The vast majority of psychiatric patients are not dangerous. They're people struggling with treatable conditions who deserve compassion and care. But sometimes, rarely, nurses encounter something that goes beyond diagnosis, beyond treatment protocols, beyond rational explanation. Before we begin, I need to ask you something. If these stories affect you, if they make you think, make you feel something, make you question what you thought you knew, hit that subscribe button. This channel exists because of viewers like you who want to hear the stories that don't make it into textbooks. The experiences that healthcare workers carry with them but rarely share. And turn on notifications because the stories I cover, the true accounts from nurses, paramedics, security guards, people who work while the rest of us sleep. These aren't the kind of stories you want to miss. If you appreciate the research, the respect for real experiences, and the commitment to telling these stories without sensationalism, leave a like. It tells me you want more content like this. Let's begin. Our first story comes from Dr. Rebecca Santos, a psychiatric nurse practitioner with 12 years of experience. In 2018, she was working at Riverside State Psychiatric Hospital in upstate New York. Riverside housed patients with severe mental illness, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder with psychotic features, treatment-resistant conditions. Rebecca had seen everything: violent outbursts, self-harm, delusions, hallucinations. Nothing shocked her anymore. Until room 7. The patient was admitted on October 12, 2018. Hospital records list him as John Doe. His real identity was never established. He'd been found wandering a highway at 3 a.m., nonverbal, covered in mud, no identification. When police tried to approach, he became violent. It took 4 officers to restrain him. He was brought to Riverside for a psychiatric evaluation. Rebecca was assigned to his case, standard procedure, initial assessment, medication evaluation, determine if the patient was a danger to himself or others. But from the moment Rebecca entered room 7, she knew something was wrong. The patient was sitting on the floor in the corner, not on the bed. On the floor, back against the wall, knees drawn up. He was staring directly at the door, at Rebecca, and he was smiling. Rebecca had seen disturbing smiles before. Patients in manic episodes, patients experiencing delusions. But this was different. She described it as knowing, as if the patient understood something she didn't, as if the smile was for her specifically. Rebecca introduced herself, asked basic questions: name, age, where he was from. The patient didn't respond, didn't move, just kept smiling. After 20 minutes, Rebecca documented her observations. Patient nonverbal, appears alert but unresponsive, affect inappropriate, recommend observation and psychiatric evaluation. She left room 7 feeling deeply unsettled. Something about the way he'd watched her, the way his eyes had tracked her every movement. That night at 2:47 a.m., the nurse station received an alert. Motion detected in room 7. Patient was awake and active. The overnight nurse, Marcus, checked the camera feed. The patient was standing in the middle of the room, perfectly still, staring directly at the camera. Marcus watched for 5 minutes. The patient didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. At 3:03 a.m., the patient walked to the door, put his face against the window, and knocked 3 times, slowly, deliberately. Marcus walked down to room 7. Protocol required verbal response to patient disturbances. "Sir, it's the middle of the night. You need to go back to bed." The patient's face was pressed against the window. His breath fogged the glass, but his eyes were open, wide, unblinking. And then he spoke, his first words since admission. "She knows what I am." Marcus asked who he was talking about. The patient didn't answer, just kept staring. Then he said, "The one from earlier, Rebecca. She knows. I saw it in her eyes." Marcus immediately radioed for backup and for Rebecca's home phone number. He called her at 3:15 a.m. Rebecca answered, groggy. Marcus explained what the patient had said. Rebecca's response made Marcus's blood run cold. "I never told him my name." Rebecca reviewed the security footage the next morning. She watched herself enter room 7, watched her entire assessment. She'd never once said her name. The patient's badge, her name tag, nothing visible that would have given him that information. Yet he knew. Over the following days, things escalated. The patient began speaking regularly, but only to Rebecca. He'd remain silent with other staff, but when Rebecca came to his room, he'd talk. And what he said made Rebecca consider quitting. He'd tell her things about herself, private things, things he couldn't possibly know. "Your sister died when you were 16, car accident. You still blame yourself." True. Rebecca had never told anyone at work. "Your mother has early-stage dementia. You haven't told her yet because you're afraid she won't remember you said it." True. Rebecca had just gotten the diagnosis the previous week. "You don't believe in God anymore." "Not since the accident, but you pray sometimes anyway, just in case." True. Something Rebecca had never said out loud to anyone. Rebecca reported everything to her supervisor, to the attending psychiatrist. They theorized the patient might have exceptional cold reading skills, or that he was making lucky guesses. But the details were too specific, too accurate. On October 19th, 1 week after admission, Rebecca was conducting her evening rounds. She approached room 7 last, as she always did now. The patient was sitting on his bed, normal posture for the first time. He looked almost human. He spoke before Rebecca could say anything. "I want to help you, Rebecca. I want to tell you something important." Rebecca knew she should leave, should call for backup, but something made her stay. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the desperate hope that understanding this patient might make the terror stop. "What do you want to tell me?" she asked. The patient smiled, that same knowing smile from the first day. "Your mother won't forget you, but you'll forget her. Alzheimer's, not dementia. The tests were wrong. She has maybe 3 years. You have 2 years before she doesn't recognize your face anymore. You'll quit this job in 6 days, not because of me, because you can't handle watching people lose their minds when your mother is losing hers. And Rebecca, you'll never stop wondering how I knew these things. You'll lie awake at night trying to rationalize it, but you can't, because I'm not sick, I'm not ill, I'm not human." Rebecca backed away from the door. She didn't run. She walked calmly to the nurse station. She documented the encounter. And then she went home. 6 days later, her mother's neurologist called. New test results. The diagnosis had been wrong. It was Alzheimer's, early onset, aggressive progression. Rebecca submitted her resignation that afternoon. The patient in room 7 remained at Riverside for another 3 weeks. He never spoke again, not to anyone. On November 8th, during a routine room check at 6 a.m., staff found room 7 empty. The door was still locked. The window was intact. The walls were solid, but the patient was gone. Security footage showed nothing. One frame, the patient sitting on his bed. Next frame, 8 seconds later, empty room. No escape was possible. The door required a key card from the outside. The window was reinforced and sealed. The room was checked every 15 minutes. Yet, he vanished. Rebecca Santos now works in pediatric nursing. She refused to speak to me on camera, but she did provide a written statement. I don't know what was in room 7. I don't know if it was a person, a manifestation, or something else entirely. What I know is that it knew things about me that nothing should have known. And it was right about everything. My mother passed away last year. I had exactly 2 years with her before she stopped recognizing me. I've never been back to a psychiatric ward. I can't, because I know that not every patient is sick. Some of them are something else, and we don't have medications for that. Psychiatric facilities keep detailed records, audio recordings of therapy sessions, video of patient interactions, documentation of every medication, every incident, every conversation. These records are protected by privacy laws. They're stored securely. They're reviewed only by authorized personnel. But sometimes, someone finds a recording that should never have been made. This story comes from Jennifer Park, a psychiatric nurse who worked at Elmwood Psychiatric Center in Ohio from 2015 to 2019. In 2017, Elmwood was undergoing renovations. Old wings were being updated, new security systems installed, and that meant clearing out decades of old files from storage. Jennifer was assigned to help catalog archived patient records. Most were being digitized or destroyed according to retention policies. That's when she found the box. Inside were dozens of cassette tapes, therapy sessions from the 1990s, before the facility switched to digital recording. Most were routine, standard therapeutic conversations, patients discussing their treatment, medication management, progress updates. But one tape was different. The label read, "Do not listen, destroy immediately." Below that, in different handwriting, Dr. Morrison, Patient X, Final Session, March 17th, 1997. Jennifer knew she should follow the instruction, destroy it, move on. But something about that warning, the urgency, the fear, almost palpable in the handwriting, made her curious. She looked up Dr. Morrison in the hospital records. He'd worked at Elmwood from 1982 to 1997. He'd resigned suddenly in March 1997. No forwarding information. No explanation in his file. Just a note. Personal reasons. Effective immediately. Jennifer pressed play. The tape began with standard session protocol. Dr. Morrison's voice, calm and professional. "This is Dr. James Morrison, March 17th, 1997. Session with patient X, Ward C. Patient has been unresponsive to traditional therapy, attempting hypnotic regression to address traumatic memories. Patient X, I want you to relax. Focus on my voice. You're safe here. No one can hurt you." The session proceeded normally for about 10 minutes. Relaxation techniques, guided imagery, slow descent into a hypnotic state. Then Dr. Morrison asked the question that changed everything. "Can you tell me about the night of the incident? The night you came to the hospital?" The patient's voice when they responded was different from before, deeper, with an unusual accent that Jennifer couldn't place. "There was no incident. There was an invitation, and I accepted." Dr. Morrison, still calm. "An invitation from whom?" "From the ones who were here before, the ones who never left, the ones who live in the spaces between. Jennifer would later describe feeling an overwhelming urge to stop the tape, but she couldn't. Her hand wouldn't move. Dr. Morrison's voice less steady now. "I don't understand. Who are the ones who were here before?" "The patient, or whatever was speaking through the patient. This building. You think it's yours. You think you built it. But the land remembers. The ground remembers. We were here first, in the trees, in the soil, in the water beneath the foundation. You brought us the sick, the broken, the open minds, and we've been waiting, growing stronger, learning. We don't need bodies anymore. We can borrow them, wear them, walk in them." Dr. Morrison: "I think we should stop." The patient, interrupting: "James, you lost your son. Andrew. He was 7, drowned in Lake Erie, August 14th, 1989. You still visit the lake every year on his birthday. You sit on the dock. You bring flowers, yellow carnations, his favorite." Dr. Morrison's voice shaking: "How do you know that? That information isn't in any file." The patient: "Because we know everything that happens in this place, every thought, every secret, every moment of pain. We've been inside you, James, all of you, every doctor, every nurse, every patient who's walked these halls since 1963. We know about Rebecca's drinking. We know about Sandra's affair. We know about Michael's plans to hurt himself. We know everything." Dr. Morrison: "This session is over. I'm calling security." The patient, laughing now: "The door won't open, James, not until we're finished." The tape continues for another 6 minutes. Jennifer sat frozen, listening as Dr. Morrison panicked, as the patient, or whatever was controlling the patient, revealed intimate details about every staff member who worked in Ward C personal tragedies, secret fears, hidden crimes, things no patient could know. And then the patient said something that made Jennifer's blood freeze. Jennifer Park. That's who's listening to this tape right now, isn't it? In 2017, 20 years later. We've been waiting for you, Jennifer. We knew you'd find this tape. We made sure you would. We need you to know something important. Your daughter, Emma, she's sick. Not physically, not yet, but something's growing in her mind, a shadow, a whisper. It started 3 weeks ago. She hears us now, in her dreams, in the quiet moments. We're calling to her, Jennifer, because she's special. Her mind is open, receptive. In 6 months, if you don't intervene, she'll try to hurt herself. She'll succeed, but you can stop it. You can save her, if you listen to what we tell you. Jennifer ripped the tape from the player. She was hyperventilating, shaking, tears streaming down her face, because everything the voice had said about Emma was true. 3 weeks earlier, Emma had started having nightmares. Violent nightmares. She'd wake up screaming about voices in the walls, about people who weren't people. Jennifer had scheduled a psychiatric evaluation. Emma was seeing a therapist, but she hadn't told anyone at work. The tape hadn't stopped. Despite being physically removed from the player, a voice continued, coming from the cassette itself. We'll tell you how to save her, Jennifer. But first, you have to do something for us. You have to bring the tape to Ward C, to room 12, where it was recorded, tonight, midnight, alone. If you don't, Emma's dreams will get worse, much worse. Jennifer called her husband, picked up Emma from school immediately. She took a week off work. She never went to Ward C that night. She never went to room 12. Instead, she went to church for the first time in years. She found a priest who specialized in what he called spiritual disturbances. She told him everything. He listened without judgment. His advice was simple. Destroy the tape. Consecrate your home. Keep your daughter close. Don't listen to anything that offers easy answers to hard problems. Jennifer destroyed the tape that day. She never went back to the archive room. but she did take the priest's other advice seriously. Emma continued therapy. Medication was prescribed. The nightmares gradually lessened. 6 months later, the exact timeline the voice had mentioned, Emma had a particularly bad episode. She'd collected pills from the medicine cabinet, but Jennifer was watching. She'd been watching constantly. She intervened. Emma is 22 now. She's in college. She's healthy. She has no memory of that period in her life. When I spoke with Jennifer, she was reluctant to share details, but she wanted people to know one thing. That tape knew things it shouldn't have known. It predicted things it couldn't have predicted. And it offered me a deal. Emma's life in exchange for something. I don't know what would have happened if I'd gone to room 12 that night. I don't know what they wanted from me, but I know I made the right choice. You don't bargain with things that live in recordings made 20 years ago. You don't trust voices that know your daughter's name. Jennifer left psychiatric nursing in 2019. She now works in hospital administration. She never listens to audio recordings anymore. Our final story is about memory, about what happens when someone remembers things they shouldn't, things that challenge everything we understand about consciousness, identity, and the human mind. This account comes from Thomas Wright, a psychiatric nurse at a mental health facility in Washington State. He worked there from 2016 to 2022, specializing in patients with dissociative disorders. In March 2020, just as the pandemic began, Thomas was assigned to a new patient. The file listed her as Sarah Mitchell, 31 years old. Diagnosis: dissociative identity disorder with approximately 7 distinct personality states. Sarah had been functional for most of her adult life. She held a job, maintained relationships, attended therapy regularly. Her alters were known to her treatment team. They had names, histories, triggers, standard DID case, treatable, manageable. But something had changed. According to Sarah's outpatient therapist, a new alter had emerged approximately 3 weeks before admission. This alter was different from the others. The others had names like Katie, Morgan, Alex, names Sarah chose or that had emerged naturally from her psyche. This one called itself the Keeper. And the Keeper claimed to remember everything. Not just Sarah's life, not just the experiences of her other alters. Everything. Thomas met Sarah on her first day at mental health facility. Initial presentation: calm, oriented, cooperative. She understood why she was there. Her primary alter, Sarah herself, was frightened of the Keeper. It knows things, she told Thomas. Things I've never told anyone. Things I've never even thought about. Thomas had worked with DID patients for years. Alters often share information. Sometimes one alter knows things the host doesn't. It's a feature of the disorder. Traumatic memories stored in separate personality states. But Sarah insisted this was different. It knows things about other people, about you. Thomas remained professional. What does it claim to know about me? Sarah's expression changed. Subtle shift, posture straightened. Eye contact became more direct, more intense. Your wife left you 18 months ago. You told everyone at work it was mutual. It wasn't. She left because you were never home. Always working, always here with patients like me. The Keeper continued through Sarah's voice. You feel guilty about it. That's why you work so hard now. You're trying to prove that helping people matters more than your marriage, but you don't believe it. You dream about her 3 times a week. Thomas ended the session early. He documented the encounter professionally, noting that the patient had likely picked up on visual cues. His wedding ring was gone. Perhaps his behavior suggested someone dealing with personal issues, but the details bothered him. The specificity. He checked his social media. Private. He checked his personnel file. No personal information. He asked colleagues if they'd mentioned anything about his divorce. No one had. No one at the mental health facility even knew. He'd moved to Washington specifically for a fresh start after the separation. Over the next 2 weeks, Thomas continued working with Sarah. The keeper would emerge during sessions, always uninvited, always with information that seemed impossible. About other staff members. Dr. Reynolds is embezzling from the facility pharmacy. Small amounts. Pills, he says, are destroyed but actually sells. He's been doing it for 3 years. Nurse Patricia's daughter is using again. Heroin. Patricia found the needles last Tuesday. She's been crying in the supply closet during lunch breaks. About other patients. The man in room 8 isn't schizophrenic. He's being poisoned by his brother. Slow arsenic exposure. Check his blood. You'll see. Every single thing the keeper said was verifiable and verified. Dr. Reynolds was arrested for pharmaceutical theft. Patricia's daughter did relapse. Her mother confirmed it after psychiatric team intervention. The patient in room 8 did have arsenic poisoning. His brother was arrested. The keeper was right about everything, but Thomas needed to understand how this was possible. Didn't grant psychic powers. This had to have a rational explanation. He ordered comprehensive testing, brain imaging, blood work, neurological evaluation. Everything came back normal. Standard DID presentation. No organic cause for the knowledge the keeper possessed. On April 3, 2020, Thomas conducted what would be his final session with Sarah. He decided to ask the keeper directly, "How do you know these things?" The keeper emerged immediately. "Because I'm not an alter, Thomas. I'm not a fragment of Sarah's psyche created by trauma. I'm something that's always been here, in this building, in the spaces where broken minds come to heal, where the barriers between consciousness are thin. I move through patients like Sarah, the ones with fractured minds, the ones with rooms inside themselves. I slip into those rooms, and from there I can see everything. Every thought in this building, every secret, every fear. I'm in all of you, right now, in the cracks." Thomas stood to leave, to call security, to end whatever was happening. But the keeper spoke again. "Your son, the one your wife never told you about. She was pregnant when she left. 3 weeks. She didn't know yet. She found out a month later. She never told you because she was afraid you'd come back just for the child. She wanted to be chosen, not needed. His name is Marcus. He's 3 years old now. He has your eyes. She lives in Portland now. She thinks about calling you sometimes. She almost did last Christmas." Thomas left the room. He went straight to his supervisor. He explained what had happened. He requested immediate removal from Sarah's care. That night, he drove to Portland. 4 hours. He didn't call ahead. He knocked on the door of the apartment. His ex-wife answered, and behind her, a little boy with Thomas's eyes. Everything the keeper said was true. Thomas never went back to Greenfield. He submitted his resignation via email the next day. He now works as a school counselor in Portland, near his son. Sarah Mitchell was transferred to a different facility 2 weeks later. According to her records, the keeper disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared. Her treatment team at the new facility has no documentation of an alter by that name. Sarah herself has no memory of the keeper ever existing. But Thomas remembers. When I spoke with Thomas for this video, he was clear about one thing. I don't know what the keeper was. I don't know if it was a manifestation of something in Sarah's mind that could somehow access information she shouldn't have had. I don't know if it was something else, something that used Sarah as a vessel. What I know is that it changed my life. It gave me back something I didn't know I'd lost. A son, a chance to be a father. but it also made me understand that there are things in psychiatric facilities, in the minds of the severely ill, that we don't understand, that maybe we're not supposed to understand. Some patients aren't just battling their own demons. Sometimes there's something else in there with them, something that's aware, something that knows. The keeper has never appeared again, not in Sarah, not in any other patient at the hospital or anywhere else that Thomas knows of. But Thomas still wonders. He wonders if it's still there, watching, listening, moving through the fractured minds of patients whose barriers are thin, waiting for the right moment to speak again. 3 psychiatric nurses, 3 encounters that challenged everything they thought they understood about mental illness, consciousness, and the human mind. Rebecca, who encountered a patient that knew impossible things and then vanished from a locked room. Jennifer, who found a recording that knew her daughter's name and offered a terrible bargain. And Thomas, who met something that gave him a gift while revealing the cracks in reality. These stories raise uncomfortable questions, questions that don't have easy answers. Are some patients experiencing things beyond illness? Are there entities that inhabit the spaces where minds fracture? Can consciousness exist in places we don't expect? Or were these 3 nurses simply overwhelmed, exhausted, working in high-stress environments where pattern recognition creates false certainties? I can't answer those questions. Neither can psychiatric medicine. What I can tell you is this. The vast majority of psychiatric patients are people struggling with treatable conditions. They deserve compassion, not fear. They need care, not stigma. Mental illness is real. It's medical. It's not supernatural. But sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, nurses encounter something they can't explain, something that doesn't fit diagnostic criteria, something that makes them question the boundaries of what we think is possible. Rebecca, Jennifer, and Thomas all left psychiatric nursing. They all found new careers. They all moved forward with their lives. But they all carry the memory of what they experienced. They all know that something happened to them that transcended normal explanation. And they all want you to know, if you work in psychiatric care, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, truly wrong, beyond the normal challenges of the job, don't dismiss it. Document everything. Tell someone. Take care of yourself. Because sometimes the patients aren't the only ones who need protection. Thank you for watching. If you work in psychiatric care and have encountered something you can't explain, you're not alone. You can share your story in the comments or submit anonymously through the link in the description. If these stories affect you, if they make you think, make you feel something, make you question what you thought you knew, hit that subscribe button. This channel exists because of viewers like you who want to hear the stories that don't make it into textbooks. The experiences that healthcare workers carry with them but rarely share. To the psychiatric nurses watching this, thank you for the work you do. Thank you for facing things most people can't imagine. Thank you for your courage, your compassion, and your dedication. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, most of what you'll encounter has a rational explanation. Most, but not all.